Putting aside the theological propositions that Josephus, as you explain now, raised in his works, divine intervention, putting that aside, how reliable are Josephus's writing and how important are they as a source of what we understand about ancient history and those times?
So as far as why their importance for ancient history, they're indispensable. If we just compare what we know about the Second Temple period, for example, with what we know about the Bar Kokhba revolt, we don't have a Josephus to tell us about the Bar Kokhba revolt. And so all that we know about the Bar Kokhba revolt are snippets. Before the modern discovery of hordes of Bar Kokhba coins and some of the letters written to and from Bar Kokhba, we didn't even know Bar Kokhba's actual name. His actual name was Shimon Bar Kosiba. We only knew snippets because we don't have a historian like Josephus for that momentous event. What we have for the Second Temple period, we have a Josephus who gives us an unbroken chronology without which we would have very little knowledge, very little understanding of the period that runs between the composition of Tanakh and the production of the Mishnah in the year 200 CE. So in terms of an understanding of ancient history, we're talking about somebody whose writings are absolutely indispensable. As far as his reliability goes, that's one of the major questions about Josephus. He's clear that he has an agenda. He opens, as I said before, he opens by saying that in the beginning of Jewish War, he says, I am trying to write something that is even-handed, that is neither too pro-Jewish or too pro-Roman, but at the same time, you'll forgive me if I lament about the fate of the Jews. So it's clear that that he's sensitive to the plight of the Jews. He's not reticent to admit that. It's also clear that all historians in antiquity had agendas. So, for example, Thucydides says, I'm going to be absolutely objective, but at the same time, I'm not going to hesitate to put into the mouth of my protagonist speeches if I assume that basically the speeches that I'm going to invent are basically faithful to what these protagonists likely said. Josephus is probably doing something similar, probably inventing speeches that he puts into the mouths of his protagonists, probably the speech that is delivered, for example, the famous speech by Elazar ben Yair at Masada and other speeches as well. So it's clear that he takes creative license with his characters and with the events in the same way that all ancient historians would have. The fact that he is a player in these events certainly complicates the question about his reliability, as does the fact that he tells the story of many of these events in multiple versions, in war, in antiquities, in the life of Josephus. That also complicates the picture. And so one of the things that historians try to do is they try to compare the different accounts. They try to establish what Josephus's agenda was, try to figure out how what Josephus says intersects with that agenda, try to compare the accounts, taking into consideration also maybe what we can say about the wider Roman world and how what Josephus says perhaps fits within that world. That is one of the complications. At the same time, we're sort of prisoner to what Josephus says because we really have a dearth of knowledge, of independent knowledge. Historians in general look at Josephus with healthy skepticism, but have also at the same time developed methodologies that allow us to be relatively certain about much of what Josephus says.